peaceful environment in Manipur had suddenly broken up, and a reign of terror in the form of deadly ethnic cleansing pogrom was let loose by the dominant Meitei community against 𝐂𝐫𝐲 tribals on the 3rd of May 2023. 𝐂𝐫𝐲 people fled their house and ran for their lives to any nearest paramilitary camps. The Meitei miscreants, escorted by state police, freely attacked and burnt down all 𝐂𝐫𝐲 churches, colonies, houses, vehicles in Imphal and nearby villages. So far, 220 churches have been burnt down and desecrated. 120 𝐂𝐫𝐲 villages and 2,000 houses have been burnt down. 1,500 vehicles belonging to 𝐂𝐫𝐲 people have been burnt down. 91 𝐂𝐫𝐲 tribals have been killed and 195 grievously injured. 35,000 𝐂𝐫𝐲 people have displaced and rendered homeless.
You fucking cookie! Here we come! We are the indigenous people! We're gonna fuck you up!
Fucking refugees! Get up! Get up! Get up! Why? Don't come back! In front of one halano ko doy! Why halano?
Why is there so much hatred? Why do the Meiteis thirst so much for the blood of 𝐂𝐫𝐲 people? Who had instigated and brainwashed them? Who masterminded the ongoing ethnic cleansing drive against 𝐂𝐫𝐲 people? The answer lies in a deep-rooted conspiracy involving the top intellectuals and elites among the Meitei community, including the chief minister. All these heinous crimes and hatred are fueled by a deep-rooted conspiracy to discredit the indigenous 𝐂𝐫𝐲 tribals and usurp their land. In order to understand the big lie and conspiracy orchestrated by the Meiteis against 𝐂𝐫𝐲 people, we need to understand the geographical and demographical map of Manipur. There are three major communities in Manipur. The general category Meitei community are occupying the valley area located in the center of the state, while the Naga and 𝐂𝐫𝐲 tribals are occupying the hill areas. 𝐂𝐫𝐲 people are mainly concentrated in the south and the foothills located in the catchment areas surrounding the valley, thereby providing a buffer zone between Naga and Meitei areas. The Meiteis are most populous and dominant community in the state. Their population comprise of 53% of the total population, though they are confined to the valley only, which is 10% of the state's geographical area. Their land is plain and fertile. The valley area is represented by 40 MLAs out of total 60 MLAs, which is 67%, in the State Assembly and enjoys about 90% of state's annual budget allocation. Moreover, all development projects, administrative offices, health care, education, welfare, cultural and sports institutions are all concentrated in the valley only. On the other hand, the hill area, though much larger in size, is mainly mountainous and unproductive. The entire hill area, which consists of 90% of the state's geographical area, is represented by only 20 MLAs, which is 33%, and receive only 10% of the state's budget allocation. Consequently, most of the hill area remains backward and undeveloped. In recent years, there is a huge desire for Meiteis to expand their domain into the hill area. On the one hand, they demand street status to overcome the special protection accorded by the constitution to the hill tribals. On the other hand, they are adopting coercive and decoy tactics to usurp the land of the tribals. Since the Naga area is out of reach for them, they maintain cordial relation with the Nagas, while they are focusing all their might and resources to intrude into the 𝐂𝐫𝐲 inhabited areas, which are closer to the Imphal Valley. In pursuit of their well-strategized conspiracy to usurp the ancestral lands of the 𝐂𝐫𝐲 tribals, they build up anti-Kuki narratives in all public discourses in the last few years. Their strategy involves inventing and propagating big lies to malign the image of and discredit the entire 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 community by calling them refugees, migrants, drug peddlers, forest encroachers, illegal settlers, etc. Their strategy also involves instigating and radicalizing the Meitei youth to take up arms to instill sense of insecurity to the 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 people and finally drive them away and usurp their ancestral land. The Meitei strategists have successfully adopted the same lie propagation technique adopted by Adolf Hitler 100 years ago. This documentary video is an attempt to unearth the big lies, which the Meitei elites led by the Chief Minister 𝐵𝐴𝐴 Singh invented and instilled into the minds of the Meitei public, resulting in a deadly massacre and ethnic cleansing pogrom perpetrated upon the unsuspecting 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 people since the 3rd of May 2023.
आज से करीब 100 साल पहले जर्मनी के तानाशाह एडोल्फ हिटलर ने अपनी एक किताब लिखी थी माइन काम्फ नाम से। इस किताब में इसने बताया था एक प्रोपेगेंडा टेक्निक के बारे में जिसका नाम था बिग लाई। हिटलर का कहना था लोगों को बहकाने के लिए इतना बड़ा झूठ बोलो, इतना बड़ा झूठ बोलो कि लोगों को लगे यार कोई इतना बड़ा झूठ थोड़ी बोल सकता है। कोई ये बात कह रहा है तो कुछ तो सच्चाई होगी इस बात में। जब झूठ इतना बड़ा हो, इतने कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ बोला जाए तो कुछ लोग उसे सच मान बैठते हैं। लोगों को लगता है यार कोई इतना बड़ा झूठा थोड़ी हो सकता है। इस टेक्निक के एडिशन में एक दूसरी प्रोपेगेंडा टेक्निक बताई थी हिटलर के प्रोपेगेंडा मिनिस्टर जोसेफ गोबल्स ने। गोबल्स ने कहा कि रेपिटेशन भी यहां पर बहुत जरूरी है। इस बड़े झूठ को बार बार दोहराते रहो। इतनी बारी इस बड़े झूठ को दोहराओ कि लोगों को 4 अलग अलग सोर्सेज से यही झूठ सुनने को मिले। ऐसा करने से लोग और कन्विंस हो जाते हैं। फिर एक तीसरी टेक्निक बताई जाती है हाफ ट्रूथ की। बीच बीच में अपनी बातों में आधा सच भी घोल दो, क्योंकि क्या है ना, कुछ लोग आज के दिन बिग लायर्स को बड़ी आसानी से पहचान लेते हैं।
The big lie and propaganda number one invented by the Meitei elites is branding the entire community as poppy cultivators and drug peddlers. While it is true that some poor villagers who don't get any kind of support from government had been engaged in poppy plantation with the hope to come out of abject poverty and be able to finance education of their children, it is also true that majority of 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 people are opposing the poppy plantation. All the church leaders and leading 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 organizations come out openly in support the government's efforts to curb the poppy plantation. Consequent to the open declarations made by the 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 political organizations, poppy plantation has been discontinued in 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 areas since 2022. Yet, the Chief Minister continues to call 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 people as poppy planters and hurl all kinds of baseless allegations on the 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 political organizations as the financiers of drug trade. This is done with the dual motive to cover up the real drug lords and kingpins who are Meiteis and to sabotage the ongoing 𝐂𝐫𝐤 political talk between Government of India and the 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 political organizations. It is a very well-known fact that the poppy planting poor villagers are only pawns in the larger drug menace. The real drug lords and cartel leaders are all Meiteis, many of whom are closely associated to the Chief Minister himself. Most of the high-profile arrests made in recent times involve people from the valley only. Many of these arrested drug lords and peddlers are government employees working under the Chief Minister's own department, and some are close relative of a cabinet minister. This is the hard truth which the Chief Minister knows very well, yet chooses to turn a blind eye to. Since the ultimate goal of the Chief Minister's war on drug is to discredit the 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 people of their rights to their ancestral forest lands, he targets only the 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 poppy planters with stunning media coverage, while Naga poppy planters are left undisturbed. In his desperate attempt to malign the image of the entire 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 people, 𝐵𝐴𝐴 Singh stooped so low to the extent of arguing with teenagers on Facebook and posting all kinds of hate and name-calling messages against the 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 community. The Chief Minister fails to provide alternate livelihood to the poor villagers. He fails to provide job opportunity to the youth. He fails to maintain peace. He fails to control the Meitei drug lords and cartels. Instead, he chooses to defame the entire 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬 people and declare war upon them in the guise of war on drug.
I will declare war against you, people.
𝐵𝐴𝐴's big lie number 2. claiming that 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 people are encroaching everywhere upon reserved forest, protected forest, wetland, etc. Many 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 villages which had been established before independence are declared illegal and evictions carried out without giving adequate notice and not following proper procedure. Most of all, without any consideration for humanity.
𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐬 vật dấu bồi sẽ bằng hồ cá tỏ. Chỉ là trong hộp cái điều tại cái sai này rồi. Cái ban này ra tỏ gì mà.
When 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 people came out for a peaceful rally in all the hill districts to register their protest against government's random evictions and arrests of poor tribals, Biren Singh imposed prohibitory order without any reasonable ground and conveniently washed off his dirty linen in public by blaming the 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 political organizations, who had nothing to do with the public protest. Pursuing his insulting attitude upon the 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 people, Biren Singh went to the extent of forcing a survey for protected forests and wetland in the middle of the highly urbanized Churachandpur town, which is the second largest town in the state and the biggest town for 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 people. His provocation had crossed the limit of human tolerance. He had ignited the fury of 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 youth of Churachandpur, who later ransacked the venue for the chief minister's event in the town.
But here, these people are encroaching everywhere, wherever the protected forest or reserve forest, and planting poppy plantations and doing drug business. So the government has gone all out against these elements. That is the reason why they organized some suspension of operation groups, 𝐂𝐤𝐻 and 𝐳.
This peaceful rally was conducted by the civil societies of the tribal bodies of the hills of Manipur, and in fact one of the releases I read was that these bodies actually made a strong statement that neither the elected members to the Legislative Assembly nor SO groups should try to deviate them from the purpose of the peaceful march, which is in connection with the what they call illegal evictions carried out in certain parts of the hills of Manipur. But it appears some proper procedures have not been followed from the side of the victims. So to air their grievance, rather than get into any violent activities, they, in a sort of democratic fashion and conciliatory manner, carried out this peaceful march.
Biren's big lie number 3. Branding entire 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 people as recent migrants and refugees based on fictitious population explosion. 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 people are tribals. They didn't know how to maintain written records until recently. Due to lack of written record, it is impossible to ascertain the exact date when the 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 people had arrived in their present-day homeland in Manipur. However, it is well documented that the 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 people had settled in large number side by side with Nagas in the hills of present-day Manipur long before the British had arrived and long before the present-day Manipur was born. The Meitei propaganda leaders are spreading lie to the general public through all possible media by claiming that majority of 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 people have come illegally to Manipur after independence, thereby causing imbalance in demography. They have successfully infused a sense of insecurity in the mind of Meitei public. They instigate the public to harbor extreme hatred upon the 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 people. They quote the rise in number of applications for recognition of new villages by 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 group as undeniable proof of illegal influx of migrants from Myanmar, which is not true. They overlook the fact that in spite of the increase in number of new villages, the total population of 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐻 people in Manipur is not growing disproportionately. They fail to understand or conveniently choose to overlook the fact that the increase in applications for new villages is caused by following 3 reasons. 1. Large number of internally displaced people who fled from Ukhrul and Tamenglong districts during 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐬 clash in the 80s and 90s are reuniting in 𝐂𝐫𝐲 areas by establishing new villages. 2. 𝐂𝐫𝐲 people traditionally live in small villages. Whenever an existing village reaches certain threshold, it is bifurcated into several villages within the mother village's jurisdiction to enable uniform distribution of forest resources as they practiced hunting and shifting cultivations. 3. This fission tendency got boosted after implementation of NREGS, as the village chiefs in 𝐂𝐫𝐲 areas are getting lion's share out of this rural welfare scheme. Therefore, it is wrong to come to a conclusion that the increase in number of applications for new villages is due to illegal influx of 𝐂𝐫𝐲 migrants from Myanmar. On the contrary, the 𝐂𝐫𝐲 people living in Myanmar never desire to migrate to Manipur, as they are much richer and more respected out there in comparison to their brethren living in Manipur. Yet, Meitei propaganda leaders keep spreading this lie by quoting fictitious data on disproportionate increase in 𝐂𝐫𝐲 population, while data given by census speaks quite the opposite. The general public, who could not find out the truth for themselves, conveniently believe what their leaders are telling again and again. Thus, indigenous 𝐂𝐫𝐲 people have been successfully tagged as refugees and migrants in their very own land.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. After the interview I did last Tuesday with the BJP Kuki MLA from Manipur, 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐬, many members of the Meitei community got in touch saying they wanted to respond to what he had said and perhaps even rebut some of the allegations he had made. I readily agreed, because that, of course, is the essence of democracy and free speech. So joining me now is a Meitei independent MLA from Manipur. He supports the BJP government, Nishikant Sapam. Mr. Sapam is also the chairman of the Committee for Privileges and Ethics of the Manipur Assembly. Mr. Sapam, let's start with the most recent development. All 10 Kuki MLAs, 7 of whom are members of the BJP, 2 of whom are even members of the Biren Singh government, and all 10 of whom support the NDA, have demanded either a separate state or a separate union territory, because, as they say, and I'm quoting them, the Manipur government has miserably failed to protect us, and they add, to live amidst the Meiteis again is as good as death for our people. As a Meitei MLA, how do you respond to this?
Well, I saw your interview with Mr. 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐬, and first, as a sworn MLA, we have taken oath under the Constitution to safeguard the integrity of Manipur. What they signed and what they asked for just goes against the oath taken. Either they are too naive, which I think shouldn't be the case. I have taken an oath under the Constitution to safeguard the integrity of Manipur.
It is astonishing to see that the most intelligent Meitei MLA is telling lies so confidently in public.
I, Nishikant Singh Sapam, having been elected as a member of the Manipur Legislative Assembly, do swear in the name of God that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India, as by the law established, that I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India, and that I will faithfully discharge the duty upon which I am about to enter. Every son of the soil, cutting across community lines, need to have level playing field. Is that asking for injustice?
He rightly says we need a level playing field. We must have equal number of MLA for hill and valley. We must have equal fund allocations for hill and valley. We must have same infrastructure for health care, education, business, sports and cultural development.
So all the IAS and even in the state services are hogged by the people with ST quotas. And not every Manipuri
But the SC/ST quota is a fixed percentage. Meiteis qualify for the OBC quota, which is 27%.
They say OBC quotas apply to everybody, but ST always takes a chunk of it.
But how can
the choice,
the ST quota is separate to the OBC quota?
I said the job is another thing. The main thing is land. I said the main thing is land. Land is where the whole fire will start. It's all about land. Think about one big thing. How can the Kuki population rise up from 1% to 29%?
What are you suggesting? Spit it out.
No.
Spit it out, because you're clearly hinting at something.
I am saying that all these people living on the border in Myanmar and Bangladesh, they are all same tribe, same language. It could be relatives also. So it's a influx because Burma is a very disturbed area.
Are you saying that the Kuki population has grown sizably
leaps and bounds
because people from Burma have crossed over
Absolutely.
and claimed to be Indian citizens?
Absolutely.
And Mr. 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐮𝐧𝐝 said strenuously and vigorously that at the most there would be 100 to 150 people who are seeking shelter from the junta in Myanmar and not illegal immigrants, they are refugees.
Not at all. Not at all. How can the Kuki population, which was only 1% in Manipur in 1902, rise up to 29% in 2020?
The official statistics says it's 14%.
Will you please put your place in the shoes of the Manipuris and see, once upon a time, this land was ours and we are restricted to just 9%.
But the Kukis are Manipuri too.
In order to dispel many big lies quoted by Mr. Sapam, let us have a look at the abstract from the statistical account of the native state of Manipur and the hill territory under its rule. Written by R. Brown and published in 1873. According to this historical reference, the total population of Manipur in 1873 was 1,39,000. Out of this, the population of hillmen was 65,000, which translates to 46.76%. The book also mentions that Kuki and Naga tribes were equally dominating in the hill areas. From this, we can deduce that the population of Kuki tribes would be at least 20% of the total population of Manipur. This proves the hollowness of the claim made by Meitei MLA Nishikant Sapam that the population of Kuki people in 1901 was 1%. He is nothing but a big liar. However, he could be right if what he referred to as Manipur means the Impel Valley alone. Another historical book titled Linguistic Survey of India, Volume 3, Part 3, written by Grierson in 1904, estimated the total population of 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬 tribes to be somewhere between 6 to 10 lakhs. He also vividly described the limits of 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬 territory, which is much bigger than the present-day Manipur. All these are enough evidences to prove the indigeneity and large settlement of 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬 people, which Mr. Sapam or anyone for that matter cannot simply wish away just because they want to grab their land. Now, let's have a look at the 2011 census. The total population of Manipur in 2011 is 28,99,794. Total population of 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬 people is 4,48,214. This translates to 15.46% of total Manipur population. This is much lower than the percentage mentioned by Mr. Sapam as 29%, which again proves that the so-called educated and intelligent Meitei MLA is a big liar. Contrary to the claim made by Mr. Sapam, the proportion of 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬 population in Manipur has declined from 20% in 1873 to 15% in 2011.
You have to understand, when there were Meitei refugees, there were 9,600 Meitei refugees in the Kuki-dominated areas, and there were 10,000 refugees in Imphal. So it was more or less the same.
Meiteis complained that they can't settle in hill areas. Yet, as much as 9,600 Meiteis got stranded in 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬 areas against 10,000 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬 people stranded in Impel, as quoted by Mr. Sapam. This is indicative of the fact that the influx of tribals to Impel and the influx of Meiteis to the hill are more or less the same, in spite of concentration of all administrative, healthcare, education, business infrastructures, etc. in Impel. This also proves that their cry for a level playing field is nothing but a hoax. It is relevant to mention at this juncture that Meiteis in large number could settle in 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬 areas but not even a single soul in Naga areas. The reason is that 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬 people are more tolerant towards Meiteis, whereas Nagas adopt zero-tolerance policy for Meitei settlement in their areas. Instead of acknowledging this kindness of 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬 people with gratitude, the Meiteis are conspiring to usurp the lands of the 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬 people. In pursuit their malicious motive, The Métis have recently invented all kinds of concocted stories to discredit the 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐬 people and grab their land. This is a very big blunder on the part of the Métis, and it will cost them dearly.
Insaniyat is something sometimes our governments forget about. Thank you for reminding us.
The Chief Minister turns a blind eye to many Métis hate-mongers who not only post inflammatory messages on Facebook, but also indulge in hate speeches openly on television shows and mobilizing Métis youth on military line. But he promptly arrests any 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐬 youth who posts any message against his government. 𝐷𝐞𝐩𝐿 was arrested for posting on social media a well-documented historical reference which says that the territory of Manipur at the time of its merger to India comprised only of 700 square miles in Imphal Valley and not included the hill areas. 𝐷𝐞𝐻 is a native of Churachandpur district and working as president of a human rights organization based in Manipur with additional charge as coordinator for Myanmar. He mentions his native place and professional designations clearly in his Facebook page. Yet, the Chief Minister conveniently dubbed him as Myanmar national to justify his high-handedness and tyranny.
Human rights, he is from Myanmar, clearly seen in his address in the Facebook and the WhatsApp and everywhere, even in the the Twitter. You see here, President, International Human Rights Association in charge of Myanmar. You see. I'm not telling lies. In charge of Myanmar, how he can interfere in the internal matter of the Manipur, internal matter of the India? The question is how he entered, how he was staying in India. This is also a question, because I have to save the nation. I have to save the state. I cannot succumb to pressure by someone who are trying to grab our land.
𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐻's father, 𝐿𝐴𝐚 while regretting the Chief Minister's statement, said they come from a family of freedom fighter and no one can question their Indianness.
Chief Minister Government of Manipur. मेरा नाम 𝐿𝐴𝐚 की थांगमांग का बाबा है. बच्चा तो कहाँ से कैसा म्यांमारी बोल रहा है? कौन ने बोला? कौन से मिला? बताइए आप कहाँ मिला है? ये दुश्मन की बात है. मणिपुर का इंटीग्रिटी की बात नहीं है. दूसरा में तो पहला हम बाबा भी सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर में आए नहीं है ना. अरे इंडिया का बच्चा है.
𝐷𝐞𝐻 was born on 13th of March 1985 in Tolin village. Yeah, it's a Chandel. And even before the coming of the Britishers, we were already there. To put an example, in the book written by W.C. Dunn's ICS, an English officer, the Gazetteer of Manipur 1812, my great-great-grandfather's name was there. And the English officer wrote like this: although he is an efficient administrator, out of so many head speeds and communal poses, why they are very selective on this 𝐷𝐞𝐻? Why he has been singled out? No? I think this is very discriminatory. No? To err is human and to forgive is divine.
कभी कभी इथनिक टेंशन आ ही जाता है ये अलग अलग जातियों के बीच में, मगर इतना वायलेंट कभी नहीं हुआ मणिपुर में, क्योंकि इस बार पूरा मणिपुर का वैली का लीडरशिप जो है वो ट्रेडिशनल इंडिजिनस सिविल सोसाइटी का रोल बहुत कम रहा है. एक नया तरीके का ग्रुप आया है, ज़्यादातर ये मैतेई लिपुल और आराम वैतेंगोल एक नया ग्रुप आया है, उसे बहुत मिलिटेंसी इंजेक्ट किया है लोगों को. ये इनका आर्टिकुलेशन है एकदम आरएसएस जैसा आर्टिकुलेशन है.
When the top leadership and other Meitei elites are openly spewing lies and hate speeches, what good can we expect out of the brainwashed followers? Amidst all these radicalized and hate-filled Meitei supremacists, what good can the subjugated and powerless tribals still hope for? When the hatred is so deep, when we can't live together in peace, why not happily separate one another and live peacefully as neighbors?
Okay, I'm coming to the end of this interview. I think we've been going on for pretty close to 40 minutes. There is one thought that has occurred to me.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's occurred to the audience. I'm pretty sure this will be a result not just of the interview with you, but also last week with Mr. 𝐂𝐽𝐻. The distrust.
But
at times, let me finish, then you speak. The distrust. Sometimes it feels like animosity between the Meiteis and the Kukis is deep-seated. No. You consider them different. You consider them illegal citizens. You think that they are trespassing on land that shouldn't be theirs. Why not separate into different states and end the problem?
Not at all, sir.